welcome back to the wine program. This is my channel and podcast about what every waiter, waitress, line cook, and restaurant manager needs to know about wine. Welcome back. This is a super important episode. This one's called Terroir. What's up with that? Or Terroir, what the fuck is that? Or Terroir, what does that mean in English? Well, Terroir is just one of the most important concepts in wine. And I want to get it out of the way now because it's going to pertain to everything that we're going to talk about moving forward when we're talking about wine. First off, let's just talk about pronunciation. Terroir is a French word for which there is no English equivalent. The French say terroir. I'm from Chicago. I say terroir. Whatever you want to call it, that's cool with me. Just pick one, make a decision, something that you're comfortable with, because you're going to be saying it a lot. And just remember, the most annoying thing any wine person can do is correct somebody's pronunciation in public in front of their peers. So don't ever do that. So if someone's saying, hey, I really like wine from Rioja, don't ever say, sir, it's Rioja. Just say, yeah, let me get you some Rioja. And then when you pronounce it correctly, you'll say, sir, I have your bottle of Rioja here for you. My point is, don't be a dick. So, what is terroir? Well, there are several different definitions out there, but if you're asking me, I would say that terroir is the identity of a growing area, an area of production, or a single vineyard in the case of this lesson, okay? So everything that grows in and or affects a particular vineyard is considered terroir. So what this means is that a Syrah from Napa Valley is never really going to taste identically to Syrah that's grown in Côte Rôtie, okay, in the Rhone Valley of France. Gruner Veltliner that's grown in Austria is never going to taste identical to Gruner Veltliner that's grown in Santa Barbara. Pinot Noir that's grown in Vosne Romanée, Burgundy, is never going to taste like Santa Rita Hills Pinot Noir. Why? Because of terroir. Let me get more specific, okay? Terroir can be considered like the fingerprint of a vineyard or an area of production, right? So let's just take soil, for instance, because that's a big deal. Champagne is famous for chalk soil. Burgundy is famous for its limestone soil. The Mosel River Valley of Germany is famous for its slate, and Sicily is famous for, let's say, volcanic soil, okay? And I think the Latin root of terroir is like terra, which means earth or soil, but there's more to terroir, in my opinion, than just the soil. Let's say your family owns a vineyard in California. Let's say it's about 1,800 feet of elevation, right? That's about the highest point in Griffith Park, kind of common reference point for a lot of us, right? And let's just say that there's some mountain trees growing around the vineyard, some evergreens, some pine, maybe some eucalyptus trees. And then inside your vineyard, you got some like wild rosemary or lavender bushes growing. And let's say your family isn't using a lot of herbicides or pesticides, so you got this nice healthy microbiology, got a lot of naturally occurring yeast flying around in there. And let's say your soil consists of some great, clay and gravel. And let's say your vines are like 20 years old and they got like a nice complex root system that's like digging deep in there and like pulling up a lot of that minerality and those nutrients. So let's go a little bit further. Let's say the physicality of the vineyard is kick-ass, right? Let's say it's like on a hillside. It's got great drainage, so when it rains, all the water is not going to pool up. It's going to run down into someone else's, BS vineyard down here. And let's say it's southeast facing. The sun's going to come up in the east, and it's going to just arc all across, beat the shit out of your vineyard all day with beautiful sun, ripening up that fruit. At the end of the day, it's going to arc behind the hill. It's going to cast a nice shadow over your vineyard. Cool air is going to come in from the ocean. It's going to kind of chill all your berries down. All those grapes are going to get nice and chilly overnight. You got a great what's called diurnal shift, okay? Diurnal shift is just fancy wine speak for fluctuation of temperature between day and night over the given period of whatever, over a day or over a series of days. The point of this is that during the day, you're going to be getting all that great sunlight, right? So your sugar's going to be going up, your grapes are going to be getting nice and ripe, and then at night it's going to get nice and cool. And what does that do? Well, when the grapes get cold, they're going to instinctively kind of thicken their skins to protect their seeds, right? Because it's in their DNA. They want to protect their seeds. They want to reproduce, right? So what's in those skins? As they get thicker, they're going to give you more flavor, more color, and more acids, right? More texture. So during the day, you're getting, and that's basically what balance is, okay? So you're getting great balance. You're getting sugar ripeness during the day, and then you're getting like this phenolic ripeness or like this acidity developing at night, right? All of that is part of your terroir, okay? Of your vineyard. All of those things that we just talked about go into the fingerprint of that vineyard. So terroir is not just that soil that your vines are planted in, but that's part of it. It's not just the temperature or the amount of rainfall that your vineyard gets over the course of a growing season, but that's part of it. It's not just the natural flora and the fauna or the yeast or the microbiology, but that's part of it. It's everything that makes your vineyard site special. Now, if you're trying to make, or your family is trying to make, a site-specific, terroir-driven wine, like a wine of place, that sounds like they got a pretty kick-ass property right there. But I want to get back to yeast for a second, okay? Because I know yeast is just like the most interesting, fascinating thing. If we didn't cover it, I don't think we did, but let's just get it out of the way. If you don't know what fermentation is, basically it's the process of yeast eating sugar and excreting alcohol. After fermentation is done, what happens to those yeast cells after they die or become inactive? Well, they become what is known as lees, okay? That's another French term, okay? There is no English word for lees, which refers to dead yeast cells. In English, we just call it dead yeast cells, but lees, sounds, fancier. It's French, okay? These lees have flavor, right? And every specific strain of yeast, there's over 1,500, they all have a specific flavor. And 1,500 different strains of yeast may have 1,500 different flavors. There are naturally occurring yeast that are just flying around in your vineyard, right? And it's forming on your grape. And when you harvest those grapes and you bring them into the winery and you crush them and you throw them in the fermentation tank, if the temperature is correct, that yeast is going to start eating that sugar and it's going to start to naturally ferment your wine. And since yeast have their own flavor that can reflect in the wine, it's considered to be a more terroir-driven wine, a more naturally site-specific wine to be fermented with wild, naturally occurring yeast, okay? You get it? But it's kind of a gamble, right? Because if you're using herbicides and pesticides, you could be like killing some of that yeast or scaring it away into your neighbor's vineyard where they got a cleaner operation, right? So when you harvest and you throw all your stuff in the fermentation tank, fermentation may not begin like you want it to or when you want it to. Also, if you're trying to make a commercially produced wine that's going to taste the same year after year after year, and if you're making like, I don't know, whatever, 20,000 cases and you're making it from 6 different vineyards, you can do something else that's called inoculation, okay? A winemaker can purchase commercially available yeasts and add it to their fermentation tank. Basically, they get a bag of yeast, they cut it open, and they dump it in the wine, they inoculate, and fermentation begins. If you want consistency of flavor, or if you're tight on time or money, or you're in a shared facility and the other winemakers are looking at you like, hey dude, let's fucking speed it up over here, get your damn thing started, you may want to inoculate. It gives you more consistency and more control. But again, it's the winemaker's choice, and it depends on what kind of wine the winemaker's trying to make. But don't forget, there are purists who are going to judge you. And they're going to say that you're messing with the natural terroir of your vineyard if you inoculate, if you add yeast. And for the most part, I kind of agree, okay? Just frankly, between us, I kind of agree. But of course there are exceptions. I mean, that's really like an opinion, not a rule. And I want to show you what I mean. I've got 2 kick-ass wines here. I'm going to go through this quickly because it's boring, I know. We're talking about yeast for like 20 minutes, okay? So, Emmerich Knoll's got I think 15 hectares. It's his family's vineyard. He's in the Wachau of Austria. He's really, really famous for growing Gruner Veltliner. Graham Tatomer is another kind of Somm darling, kind of hipster wine producer from Santa Barbara, okay? California, generally speaking. These are both great wines, and I really like both of these winemakers, okay? So, this guy, his Gruner Veltliner is growing in the Wachau of Austria. Graham Tatomer, he's getting his Gruner Veltliner from Santa Barbara, and they're both fermented with the same strain of yeast. Now, how did that happen? How could that possibly be? Again, these are both like fancy schmancy, some darling, kind of like hip producers. How could it be that they both are fermented with the same strain of yeast? Well, I could think of, if I had to guess, I would take 3 guesses. I would say, well, there's 1,500 different strains of yeast on the planet, and what a weird coincidence that they both are growing the same strain of yeast on Gruner Veltliner in 2 different parts of the world. Wouldn't that be like a weird coincidence? Okay, that's one guess. The second guess is that Tatomer, or Tatomer, some people call him Tatomer, I'm not really sure what's right, but Tatomer loves Emmerich Knoll. I've heard that he worked like 3 harvests with Emmerich Knoll, and like really, that was like his mentor, okay? It was like his wine god. Now, it could be that Tatomer was really like, man, I really like what you do. I really like your yeast. Can I have some? And Emmerich Knoll was like, yeah, sure, kid, have some yeast. And he like put some yeast in an envelope, and Tatomer brought it back to California and like propagated it and like unleashed it in this vineyard, and now they both got the same yeast, right? I don't know, maybe that could happen, I guess, I don't know. Or, on the other hand, what if they're both purchasing the same bag of yeast and inoculating with the same strain? One guy in Austria and one guy in California. That's it. That's what they're doing. If I'm not mistaken, they're both inoculating with champagne yeast. Why? Because Graham Tatomer loves Knoll, and he liked his recipe, and he wanted to emulate him. And these are both great wines, made by great fancy schmancy Somm darling producers. And they are both totally, totally fraudulent, right? Of course not. No, I'm joking, right? Back in the day, I may have thought like, oh snap, like these guys are inoculating. That's bullshit, dude. Like that's not natural. But now I just think like, who cares, right? I mean, these guys are both farmers, they're both winemakers, they're both making killer wine, and if that's the kind of flavor profile that they want, then God bless them, okay? The older I get, the more I realize that everything is dependent on the wine that you are trying to make, and the style that you like, and how you want to express your whatever artistry or your palette, and it's all good with me, okay? And that's it for Terroir. I think that's everything you need to know. There might be some other stuff. If it comes up, we'll definitely mention it. We're going to talk a lot more about farming, organic, biodynamic farming, natural wine, etc., etc. But I think for now, that's kind of it, right? I'm ready for a drink. I don't have anything to toast you with today, unfortunately. But please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the wine program. It's not what you know, it's what you need to know. It's El Programa del Vino, baby. Adios and peace. Peace. Actually, I do have something. Peace.